all for joining us today, for taking some time out of your busy schedules. Really appreciate it. We got a really good meeting for us today. We're going to talk a little bit around OpenTelemetry, kind of describe what that is, some of the benefits that our customers and many customers throughout the world are taking advantage of OpenTelemetry. We're going to talk a little bit around Splunk and how Splunk is really contributing to OpenTelemetry and how OpenTelemetry and Splunk are partnering to create a really good solution for our customers. So I'm going to take about 10 minutes and walk through that. And then after that, I've got a very special guest. I've got Graham Bucknell from Monster who's going to join us. And him and I are going to do a little Q&A session and talk a little bit around Monster and how they're using OpenTelemetry, how they're using Splunk on a day-to-day to make their lives easier. So just a quick forward-looking statement slide here. Just it's best practices to never purchase any software based off any roadmap items. So just keep that in mind as we go. So for today's host, my name is Kirk O'Quinn. I'm one of the observability advisors here at Splunk. And as I mentioned, my special guest is Graham Bucknell. He is a platform solution architect with Monster. So let's jump right into it. So in case you aren't familiar with observability, telemetry describes its three primary pillars of data, and that would be metrics, traces, and logs. This data from your applications and infrastructure is called telemetry, and it's the foundation of any monitoring or observability system. OpenTelemetry, or OTel for short, is an industry standard for instrumenting applications to provide this telemetry, collecting it across the infrastructure and emitting it to a back-end observability system. So OpenTelemetry provides really a single set of APIs, libraries, agents, collector services to capture distributed traces and metrics from your application. And logs from Kubernetes is available right now, and more enhancements are coming in the future. And really, at a high level, OTel is an industry-backed extensible architecture that is completely vendor agnostic, right? It generates data from the behavior of the application. And unlike traditional agents in APM tools, which can be expensive and create vendor lock-in, OpenTelemetry makes access to data easy with no license costs. So in turn, OpenTelemetry enables Splunk to focus on what we do best, and that is helping our customers gain immediate insight from all their data. So OpenTelemetry is currently made up of several main components. You've got specifications to drive consistency across the various projects. You have APIs, which are containing interfaces and implementations based on the specifications. You have software development kits, or SDKs, which are referencing implementation of the APIs. You have exporters, enabling you to send that data to any back-end system of your choice. And then you have collectors, providing a vendor-agnostic implementation for processing and exporting telemetry data. And really, OpenTelemetry helps you replace the need for vendor-specific SDKs and tools for generating and exporting that telemetry data. So why does this matter? In the past, the code was instrumented. The way the code was instrumented in the past would vary, right? Each observability tool would have its own instrumentation libraries and agents for emitting that telemetry data. And this meant that there was really no standardized way for the data format to be formatted for sending data to an observability solution. So if a customer chose to switch observability tools, it meant that they would have to re-instrument their code and configure new agents just to be able to emit that telemetry data to a new tool of choice. And with that lack of standardization, the net result is the lack of data portability and really a burden on the user maintaining instrumentation libraries. So at the end of the day, the biggest benefit of using OpenTelemetry for observability is that you only have to do instrumentation and telemetry pipeline work one time, no matter what system you use to analyze the data. You could use a commercial product, open source, or even a homegrown solution, and you never have to duplicate any of the work you did to instrument your applications. Avoiding vendor lock-in is critical. If you're stuck emitting telemetry data in a format that other vendors can't consume, you're stuck with that vendor and reliant on their roadmap and operational ability. Data ownership for your telemetry gives you true independence. You can choose the technology that's right for your business, no matter where it is in the observability journey. And you can also extend the data for whatever comes after observability. And also with an open data pipeline, you can process data before sending it to your observability system. So take, for example, what if you don't want to analyze certain data points? Or if there are data residency requirements that apply for some customers? With a proprietary agent, you might not have control over what's sent and analyzed. OpenTelemetry gives you the flexibility you need to meet your business objectives. And it's easy to set up. OpenTelemetry facilitates the instrumenting of applications by providing means to automatically or manually instrumenting your application, so you have the flexibility to instrument your apps the way that works best for you. OTel gives enterprises the freedom to scale modern monitoring and observability practices without thinking about tool-specific considerations. Its truly open nature lets you trust that it will be supported in the future and empowers you to adapt and expand to the unique needs of your business. And lastly, and probably most importantly, OpenTelemetry provides the benefit of working with a community. OTel is the second largest project behind Kubernetes, hosted by the CNCF, and it continues to grow substantially. Right now, there are over 1,200 developers every month checking in code to OpenTelemetry. This is way bigger than any one vendor could provide to build and maintain these integrations. So more and more of these contributors are end users, which is really, really cool. It's a very healthy signal for the project. And what we've seen is people and companies are getting so much usefulness out of OpenTelemetry that they're taking it upon themselves to contribute back in making it even more useful for everyone. As far as use cases, there's many different use cases for OpenTelemetry, but really it can be used, in the back and the front end of applications, as well as your infrastructure, really providing you context across your entire stack. So Splunk, I love this about Splunk. It's built OpenTelemetry native. And unlike some of the other vendors that are out there, Splunk doesn't rely on their proprietary software to be OpenTelemetry compatible. Splunk Observability collects data from any distribution of OpenTelemetry, as well as instrumentation packages or SDKs from hundreds of commonly used frameworks. Splunk Observability supports automatic trace instrumentation and configuration to make it really easy to get started. And plus, you can customize what's included by building from the community source. With Splunk Observability, you can view the status, you can view interactions, dashboards, and logs from all of your infrastructure in Observability Cloud or another observability tool. And really, there are many benefits that come along with the OTel native Splunk observability. So you can improve your performance. You can maintain vendor neutrality and optimize performance of revenue-generating applications by addressing failure conditions. You can centralize your data. You can capture data from all sources with a single agent using the OpenTelemetry collector without sacrificing choice. Use open standards and easily instrument your applications. You can integrate with ease. You can use an array of languages, frameworks, and libraries to manage all of your integrations. And ultimately, you can troubleshoot faster. You can tackle performance issues quickly, reduce mean time to resolution with context-aware workflows powered by metrics, traces, and logs. And Splunk continues to make improvements to our distribution of the OpenTelemetry collector. Some recent released enhancements include collector auto discovery and configuration for Java, .NET, JS on Linux, Windows, and Kubernetes with no configuration, no language agents required. And developing right now is support for Python. We also released collector auto discovery for relational and non-relational databases. So you can automatically discover databases, message queues, web servers, and more running on each host or as a SaaS service. So when the collector is running on the same host as a third-party service, it will automatically start capturing telemetry from it. And Splunk Cloud is supporting the OpenTelemetry protocol for log ingestion. That's actually in preview right now, so definitely reach out if that's of interest. Also released is agent management or inventory views. So you can look in a UI and see all your VM hosts and Kubernetes clusters on AWS, Azure, or GCP. You can see which hosts and clusters have agents, which ones don't, and the status of each agent. And in development right now are views for services as well. So that's coming soon. And lastly, released is the OTel collector as a technical add-on, and that can be deployed and managed by our Splunk deployment server. Splunk employs 35 engineers that regularly contribute to the OpenTelemetry project. Roughly 20 of those are on a dedicated OpenTelemetry engineering team, and 17 are project maintainers. Splunk also employs 2 of the project co-founders. And both of those are extremely active in the community, and actually one of them is a Splunk Observability Director of Product Management, and he actually owns the entire OpenTelemetry project roadmap. So here's a great quote from one of our customers, care.com. And at Splunk, we really share in Care's thoughts and feel that Splunk really does have the best backend for OpenTelemetry data. And tons of our other customers share these sentiments as well. If you're interested in learning more, you can learn more about care.com, how they're using Splunk Observability and OpenTelemetry, as well as many of our other customers like Atlassian, Progressive Insurance, Lockheed Martin, Monster, on our website at splunk.com. So with that quick overview, I want to thank you for that. And what I'm going to do is bring on my guest of honor, Graham Bucknell.
Hi, Kirk.
Hey, Graham. You stop sharing that.
Guest of honor. Wow.
Welcome, Graham. Very psyched to have you here today.
Yeah, me too.
So let's do a little bit of Q&A. Let's learn a little bit about who Graham Bucknell is and how things are going at Monster, and we'll dive a little deeper around how you guys are using OTel and Splunk Observability to improve your day-to-day operations. So here's a quick softball for you. Who are you and what do you do at Monster?
Yeah, my name's Graham Bucknell. I work for Monster.com, so the jobs website, not the energy drinks or the cables. And I'm a platform solution engineer at Monster. And I'm based out of Sydney, Australia. I lead a team of 5 developers, or DevOps engineers, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. Can you take just a couple minutes and kind of describe Monster's tech stack?
Yeah, sure. Um, so our tech stack is we have a legacy stack and then a newer microservices stack, and we're slowly migrating everything onto the newer stack. And I primarily work on the newer stack, and we have most of our hotel um, usage there, but we're also adding it to the legacy stack as well. So I'll talk about the kind of the newer side of the house. So we started this project about 5 years ago, building microservices on Kubernetes with Istio Service Mesh as well. We run mostly on sort of 90% on AWS, and then have some data assets on GCP. Um, and the stack's developed by a bunch of different squads in different, located in different countries. And it's a really polyglot sort of stack. So squads pick whatever language suits them best. In practice, that ends up being mostly JVM based things like Java and Kotlin and Scala, and then there's some Node services as well, and then Node in the front end, obviously. Um, yeah, so it's a big ball of wax, and OTel is really critical in being able to understand those interactions between the multiple microservices. It makes that this sort of observability we get out of in a microservices environment is like really critical to being able to solve any operational problems that come up during our workday.
Yeah, awesome. Can you talk a little bit around what drove you to invest in Otel? Like, why did you move to Otel?
Yeah, like we didn't select Otel specifically, but we were really happy that it was part of the conversation. So we were a Splunk, or we're a longtime Splunk logs customer, but we were using a different vendor for observability. This is about 2 years ago now, and recognize the benefit of having all that telemetry data with the same vendor, because you can sort of correlate logs with traces and metrics. But the fact that Splunk only used OpenTelemetry was a really massive tick, because of what you said in your presentation. It's um, we kind of get a bit of migration fatigue, I guess, from moving vendors from one to another, and it's really nice knowing that this part of the stack, like I think we've done our last migration. We're um moving to Otel seems like where the puck is moving in terms of other vendors operating it. And so yeah, just we didn't set out to use Otel, but we're really happy that we did get Otel in the process, I guess.
Awesome. So you mentioned you were using a kind of a vendor specific agent prior to how is moving to an open standards way of collecting data? How's that been more beneficial?
Well, as well as that sort of idea of not having to, having done the last migration, I guess. Um, the other nice benefit of it is that it's backend neutral. So we use the Splunk distribution of Otel, but even though it's still Otel, it follows upstream Otel like incredibly closely. Um, and if we have sort of more ad hoc um, needs that arise, like one of the challenges that we deal with a lot is just the amount of metrics and logs and it's a scale problem. Like it's especially with the service mesh, where every single pod and container has like a really massive array of different metrics that it emits. Being able to add an ad hoc, throw up a Prometheus and send metrics and stuff to that Prometheus to be able to debug and diagnose a specific problem where that might not be possible to send to our sort of our flagship observability backend for financial or performance reasons can be is really handy and is something that we've used in the past. So yeah, it's just that flexibility is really cool and something that we couldn't do with our vendor solution before.
Yep. Talking a little bit about like the work involved that it took to move from your prior solution to OpenTelemetry. Can you speak a little bit about that migration and that move?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, about 2 years ago, as I said, and the OTel part of it probably wasn't the biggest lift in terms of because we were changing backend vendors at the same time. So the bulk of the work was moving detectors and that sort of thing, and dashboards and things that had been developed by the development teams to monitor their services. That was probably the bulk of the work. So in terms of just the OTel piece of it, we just added it alongside the existing vendor solution and then sent metrics to both places for a time, and then through we just have a pretty standard dev pre-prod prod set of environments. We sort of rolled OTel out from environment to environment and slowly shut down the vendor solution over a period of about 3 months, I think. But yeah, it feels like the OTel piece of it wasn't the biggest lift there.
Mm-hmm. Now, does your team have to be super technical in order to make that migration, or?
I think you can get started if you have so we're running on Kubernetes and if you know you know day-to-day Kubernetes stuff, you can definitely get started with OTel pretty quickly. There's a pretty nice Helm chart that packages it all up, and Splunk has taken has their own Helm chart that helps you integrate with the Splunk Golly backend, with some nice like overrides that you can just set. So if you have those sort of skills, it's quite easy to get started.
Now, one of the benefits I know from using an open standards way of getting telemetry data in is being able to control costs, right? As far as what are you guys doing with open telemetry to control what data you're ingesting and ultimately the cost of that pipeline?
Yeah, that's a major thing that we worry about. As I said before, scale is just the number of metrics. It feels like there's the system to monitor the system can sometimes be bigger than the system itself. And it's really crucial to be able to control the metrics that are being sent there to keep everything under our limits, and it's something that we think about a lot. And that's sort of like what I was touching on before, where we can spin up like a self-hosted thing to figure out issues with really high cardinality metrics that wouldn't be kind of financially feasible to monitor otherwise is really powerful. And I guess OTel, I really feel like OTel is the right place to do that, because rather than send your metrics to your backend and then drop them early, like there's features and to do that, but if you drop them like at the source, or can control what granularity you're sending at the source at OTel, at the thing that emits the metrics, that's a really good way to do it, because you're not incurring costs to send them over the wire and then drop them later. And OTel makes it possible for you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Um, what would you say the biggest or the best impact of implementing OTel was or is?
It's it feels like we're singing from the same song sheet, but really just that final migration aspect of it, and that there's so much there's so many contributors to it. It's all lots of the tools that we use just natively speak Airtel, and so yeah, like it feels like where the puck's going.
Hmm.
So just being on that with that massive community is I think the best part of implementing Airtel.
Yep. Any future plans for open telemetry at Monster?
Um, Something that we haven't really looked into enough is profiling. So automatic enabling profiling of specific uh, microservices. And that comes down to like that the scale sort of question. Like you can't really run profiling for all services at once. So having some knobs or ways that developers can opt their a particular service into that sort of that observability would be really good. And so we need, my team is sort of the glue between the vendor and the developer, and providing providing something there around profiling would be really cool, and I think would help our developers, with performance bottlenecks and that sort of thing, and to be able to understand their services better.
Now, I know you're following the community quite often. What would you like to see as kind of coming down the pipe in the future
Oh,
for the community?
so I get to do a feature request here. Um, I think just in terms of ease of use of Hotel, like it's easy to start, really easy to start at. But being able to visualize your pipelines in some visual way would really help in terms of being able to develop quicker. Um, yeah, I sort of have this picture in my head of what that would look like your service is emitting these metrics, and you would see which ones would be dropped, and maybe you'd be which properties would be dropped or whatever, and you could see kind of reducing the cardinality, just to help in terms of those scaling issues that I was talking about. Just being able to see that would be really really cool. Maybe
Hmm.
with like a dynamic thing where you change the query and see. Going too far probably, but yeah,
One of the
that'd be
things, sorry to cut you off there. One of
no
the
no.
things I did mention as a new release is was the UI to see like agent status and stuff, like what agents are out there. Do you guys leverage that at all right now?
Oh yeah yeah we uh yeah, I like to be on the latest of the latest versions of the agents if we can, or keep 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 things up to date, and that's a really easy way to make sure that that's being done, I guess.
Mm.
So yeah, we do use that.
So, really appreciate your time, Graham. I'm gonna end on this one. This is something that I'll ask anybody, like friends and stuff, and if you go on a vacation or something, or if you play a golf course, or stay at a hotel, or go to a certain ski resort, I just always ask an open-end question: would you do it again? Right? And just to see what their answer is. Would you stay at that hotel again? Would you go to that ski resort again? So if you had to roll back the clock 2 years and re-implement and go down this path again, would you do it again?
Oh, with that question, yeah, definitely. Just knowing that, yeah, we've done our last our last migration is great in those terms, and it's a great tool to work with as well.
Awesome.
It sounded like you, instead of hotel, you said hotel.
No pun intended
Which is understandable.
there. Great. That's awesome, Graham. I really appreciate your time. I know you guys are a really good customer of Splunk's. You guys are leveraging OpenTelemetry, obviously. You're leveraging observability from Splunk. So really appreciate your time today and all the things that you're doing for the community and for helping other Splunk customers just like Monster.
Yeah, no problem, Craig. It was great to get to talk to you about that, and hope everybody enjoys the drinks. It's it's 8:30 a.m. for me, so yeah, I won't be joining in. But yeah, have a great time with that.
Yeah, you're calling
Thanks.
from Sydney, Australia, right? I mean,
Yep,
it's
Sydney, Australia.
Friday morning over there. So
Yep.
thank you again, Graham. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. See ya.
In Orlando, I will turn the ball over to you to make up some nice drinks for us.
Excellent. I will graciously pick up the ball and say a very friendly Canadian hello to my predominantly American cohort. Hey, how's it going? My name's Orlando. We're Happy Hour Academy. I love learning about observability, even if as a, first off, initially a marketer by trade, and now cocktail maker by trade for the last 12 years. Let me tell you, even though I learn a lot every time I experience one of these observability sessions, I still feel like I could spend a lifetime trying to figure out what you do. It's thrilling to me every single time. Notwithstanding that, though, thankfully, I have nothing of value when it comes to protecting any observability clouds in the world, but I can talk to you about the one thing I know, which is how to make a really good margarita. So I know there was a comment in the chat about a cocktail kit not being there. Hopefully we can figure that out. But for those of us that do have a cocktail kit in tow, just a couple of things that we're going to need. We're going to keep things moving pretty expeditiously as we've got like half an hour. We don't want to eat up your entire afternoon, but we do want to serve you some tasty treats. You should have a rimming tray. They're brand new from a factory. If you do give this a rinse, please ensure you dry it thoroughly before we fill it with our salt mixture, which will come in a sec. As there's a freeze-dried fruit in this salt mixture, the minute you add liquid to it, it'll do the opposite of what a silica gel packet would. It'll clump up, and your rim will no longer be nearly as fun. So just quickly pat that out with a dry cloth if you plan on rinsing it. You also will need something to shake a cocktail with. It doesn't have to be a cocktail shaker. Could be a mason jar. Mason jars are great. I love these things. Could be a protein shaker bottle. If Splunk has ever sent, I don't know, maybe you have like a Yeti bottle from our favorite vendor on the planet, Splunk. I don't know what swag is being given out these days, but a water bottle, mason jar, somebody from a major e-commerce organization like 3 months ago brought a salad spinner to a workshop. That's not a joke. It works, surprisingly. I was actually kind of blown away by that. A couple of other things you'll need. Ice. If you don't have ice, frozen fruits. If you don't have frozen fruit, some very cold water, but ice is always going to be the best way to make our drinks cold and taste better. Quote from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for some reason. So ice, something to measure with, a measuring tool of choice. If you're not a shot glass or jigger person, if you don't have a shot or jigger that you know the units of measurement of, actually, we're going to go into close-up mode for this. Ooh, close-up mode, fancy. Tablespoon represents half of an ounce. Any tablespoon will do. Jigger works too. As long as you know the units of measurement of something, we are golden. Or, as I understand that in most of the lower 48, free pouring is a thing. So you don't have to heed my advice along this journey. You can go ahead and drink to your heart's content if you feel as though it's a responsible thing to do. So ice. Oh yeah, a couple of glasses. Second cocktail is a mule style beverage. So if you want like a copper mug, I've got one up there. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't see them for him. So I'll just use 2 rocks glasses for today. And that's it. We ready to rock? Who doesn't love preamble? I was on a 11 p.m. flight last night, and I feel like I sound like the pre-flight instructions before we take off every time I deliver one of these experiences. And having just gotten off a plane, yeah, it really does feel like getting ready to go somewhere. Are we ready to make a margarita? I feel like if chats are saying, clearly everybody needs more swag. Who doesn't want more swag? Anyways, let's get started with the first cocktail of our day, the Ollie Rita. the O11Y Rita. Open up whatever you're going to shake your cocktail with. We're going to leave it empty of ice for now. I will use in solidarity, despite the fact that I have this delightful Japanese crystal. Oh my God. Cocktail shaker. Again, we can make a cocktail with anything, and so I'm here to do that alongside you. So we're going to do exactly that. Get into close-up mode. Move my ice to the side. We're also now going to load our wonderful, beautiful magnetic enclosure. Ooh la la. Rimming tray. Open up your Italian peach salt rim. If you ever want to recreate this, most organic grocers now carry a variety of freeze-dried fruit. We went nuts and bought a freeze dryer about 5 months ago, and it's my favorite toy on the planet. So these are freeze-dried Niagara peaches. We are based out of Toronto, and man, it is peach season right now. And so I went absolutely mental and bought like 6 bushels of them and freeze-dried them all. They're great. So empty out your Italian peach salt mix into your rimming tray if you feel so inclined. Give it a good side-to-side shake. Come back to that in a minute. I'm going to close my rimming tray and say sayonara for now, my friend. Now, back to our Boozeville. So if you are an alcohol-free cocktail enthusiast, there are wonderful alcohol-free tequilas on the market. You may balk at the price. Alcohol-free spirits are expensive, more expensive than booze in many cases, which is wild, absolutely wild to me to think about sometimes. But you know what? I love that anybody can enjoy a cocktail no matter what their preferences is. So that's a win for us all. You know, we're all about keeping safe together. So to me, being safe means drinking what you enjoy. So if that's booze, awesome. If it's not booze, well, what are you going to do? We can still do something. So I'm going to use Siempre. You can use any Blanco, any Reposado tequila that you like. I have opened up so many mini bottles of tequila that I feel wasteful when I do this because I can't drink this margarita afterwards. I have work to do. So I'm going to use existing product, but any Blanco or Reposado tequila in the future will totally work for this cocktail. You should have plenty of syrup to make more of these later. So if you're going to, having a night on the town, amazing. Long story short, somewhere between 1.5 ounces and 2 ounces of tequila. This variation of the cocktail, so we're using a tablespoon, solidarity, right? This variation is like a Tommy's margarita, which is all tequila. So sometimes you'll get tequila with a bit of orange liqueur. This is just straight tequila, 2 ounces. So if you're using a tablespoon with a steady hand, of course, it's 4 tablespoons. So 1 tablespoon, 1/2 ounce. 2 tablespoons. I know I sound like a Sesame Street character right now. 2 tablespoons, 1 ounce. 3 tablespoons, 1.5 ounces. I don't understand an observability cloud, and here I am incrementing in 1/2 ounce units to some leading minds in the world of tech. Wild, wild. I know we can multiply 1/2 ounce by 4, but 2 ounces of tequila. If you wanted in the future, you could cut the tequila in half and replace that with a nice sherry. That's a super fun cocktail that's super popular right now. It's called a 50-50 marg. If you want something that's low alcohol, you'd follow the rest of the ingredients I'm going to give you exactly. And it's also delicious, but this is a Tommy's all tequila. Tommy's all tequila. Tequila's best friend on the planet. Jus de Lime. Why am I speaking French? I was just in Quebec last night, and so I've had to practice. This is lime juice. You've got lime juice in your kits. 2:1 is the ratio of tequila to lime. So 2 ounces of tequila means we put 1 ounce of lime, AKA 2 tablespoons. This is a remarkably steady hand with a tablespoon for me. I'm proud of myself, so I will give myself an imaginative pat on the back. All right, we're in the home stretch, I promise. I promise. If this were a cocktail bar and you'd waited 12 minutes to get a single cocktail, I know the Yelp reviews would come in and they would be filled with WTFs, other acronyms that would make me feel really bad about myself. So I promise we're in the home stretch of this cocktail. Peach syrup. It has a very rich texture. Again, peaches in season. We went nuts buying a ton of them. This is honestly almost closer to a marmalade than it is to a syrup. So it should preserve well in your fridge for quite some time. If you don't like sweet cocktails too much, if you want a drier cocktail, I'd say maybe 1/2 tablespoon. But for most of us, 1 tablespoon should be plenty. So it's 2 parts sugar to 1 part water, which should give it some shelf stability. But yeah, look at that, man, super viscous. Love this stuff. Cool. Home stretch, I promise. Now, from here, if you want to rim your glass with salt, we can do that. So I'm going to use this. This is my rocks glass. Any glass will do. You can use any glass that you've got at home, literally anything. You can dream it. You can drink from it. How that joke was, that was a stupid joke. Oh God. What day is it? It's Thursday, isn't it? Okay, so take your glass. The way we're going to rim this, you can do it a few ways. We need to wet the rim with something viscous. Oftentimes you'll go to a cocktail bar and they'll just have a plate with lime juice in it. You could absolutely do this at home, like just a little pour lime juice onto a plate. And then, simple as that. I actually like to keep it a little bit more delicate. I don't rim my entire glass. So what I tend to do is I'll dip my finger in a syrup of some kind. You could also use a paintbrush. We actually had a fun event in Montreal yesterday where we painted a beautiful vertical rim on the side of the glass and then dusted the sugar on top, sugar and salt. But what I'm going to do instead is dip my finger in some paint. I mean, dip my finger. No, don't use paint. Never use paint. That's probably not a good idea. Dip your finger in the syrup and run your finger around the edge, however far you'd like that rim to appear. I usually go for like a third. Or again, dip it in lime juice, dip it in the salt rim and run back and forth. For me, again, I've dipped in syrup and I'm going to place the syrup side down in my rimming tray and just run it back and forth. See if I can zoom in at the same time. Oh my goodness. Wow. Really need an auto zoom. There we go. Give it a good shake. Make sure no excess comes off. All right, home stretch, 60 years later. Cocktail number 1 is en route. From here, you don't need to be an excessive human being who loves making clear ice in their freezer. Although if you want to know how to make this, let me know. Happy to share. Super easy. So you don't need a Japanese ice knife. Any ice will do. But unfortunately, since I'm pretending that I live in the 1910s, I have to risk my life to add some ice to my cocktail shaker. I would not recommend this. I've yet to cut my hand in 12 years of doing this, but again, ice from your freezer, like a normal person, would be much wiser for most of us. So a little bit of ice in your cocktail shaker, mason jar, unit or vessel of choice, seal it really tightly. Again, I love mason jars because they have threaded lids. They will stay absolutely airtight and make sure that you don't spill anywhere, which is great. We're on expensive work laptops. That would be bad to spill. The way we shake a cocktail, if you're using a cocktail shaker that doesn't have a threaded lid, squeeze between 2 hands, hold it over your shoulder, point away from your servers. I don't know, why would anyone be doing this in a server room? I don't know, but just in case, point away from expensive stuff. I've ruined 7 laptops and now an iPad since starting this company. It's an expensive hobby. Don't recommend it. If you have to use one hand, make sure you're pressing down on the lid firmly while holding the rest of the shaker in the rest of your fingers. And again, point away from expensive stuff. But with 2 hands, we'll just pass it, catch it, pass it, catch it. Like, don't let go of it, but just like back and forth. Oftentimes you'll see cocktail makers go side to side. Fancy, really fancy. This is called the Japanese hard shake. Really pretentious people think that it makes the ice shear and not crush. No studies have actually positively correlated with that. It just honestly feels nice. Who doesn't love catharsis? I love catharsis. Home stretch, 15 to 20 seconds later of shaking. You're not going to make this cocktail much colder than that. So we're going to say pencils down. The longer you shake, the more it'll dilute, but it won't get that much colder. The closer it gets to 0, the harder it is to reach 0. It is not a linear arc of chilling, but rather parabolic, not parabolic, exponential. Yeah, inverse exponential. Okay. Anyways, home stretch. We do not, if you go to Jalisco, even for a second, drink this in a sombrero glass. Although if you wanted to, drink it in those really cool sombrero glasses. You could strain by taking whatever lid you were using and just keep the lid ajar. and pour into your fancy sombrero glass. But if you were in the town of Tequila, if you were in Jalisco, they would say, not about that. We are just going to do this. Boom. Shake and pour. It's called a shake and dump in the cocktail world. From here, all you got to do is flip in a lime wheel from your kits, raise your glass, ask me any questions you've got about cocktails, or don't, but whatever you choose to do, please drink this responsibly. Cheers to everybody at Splunk for letting me talk about booze with some of my favorite new friends. Cheers, everybody. But yeah, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. If anybody's got a cocktail that is broken, too sour, too sweet, too savory, too bitter, maybe we've got some gastronomy freaks who are like, we're looking for umami or something. Fire it in the chat. If you're not a tequila enthusiast and you're looking to find a way to make this more you, let's talk about that. And if not, we'll just kind of hang out for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then make the second cocktail. Wish you very well. Say some thank yous. Maybe practice my French again. Who knows? The world's our oyster. And I'm just going to pop open the chat, which I should have popped open 4 minutes ago. There we go. Okay, Pete, that's a really good question. How important is shaking? Is stirring fine? Shaking and stirring will both chill a drink equally. The only real fundamental, so we made, interestingly enough, this is relevant to what we did yesterday at this product launch that we were a part of. We made a clear margarita and we stirred the cocktail only simply for one reason. When you shake a cocktail, you do crush the ice. So if you had a clear cocktail to begin with, it'll look a little bit cloudy. So like if you have a martini and you stir it, it'll stay clear. If you shake it, it'll become cloudy and you'll have some ice crystals in it as opposed to just a smooth sipping experience. So that's one thing. Stirring a cocktail doesn't do as good a job of aerating. So like this is a little bit, this margarita that I shook is a little foamy. That foam is a sign, oh my God, that foam is, that's what happens when I don't look at the glass, but I look at the camera. Yeah, foam is an indicator that we've had some aeration happen, but for most, honestly, stirring a cocktail in any case is absolutely fine. The usual rule of thumb for something like this would be if your cocktail's got a juice of some kind, shaking it usually yields a better cocktail. But again, if we're in a desert island, if we're in an office where we don't have the tools with which we need to shake, stirring will do 99.5% of the job. And again, we made margaritas literally yesterday that were stirred, and the feedback on it was remarkably positive. We were the opening act for a 2 Michelin star chef, and you know what? We got some pretty solid feedback from it. So I'm thrilled to have been a part of that. And yeah, anyways, that's a humble brag that nobody cares about. But that's my story on, oh, aha. So we're gonna get to clear ice in a second. Is the lime juice you buy at the grocery store fine? Yeah, it is. The lime juice you buy, so I am of the mind, and I realize that our company, we sell cocktail kits. We're in the booze and booze accessories business. And so shipping the freshest, we tried when we started this company 4 years ago as a Toronto only thing, we were shipping a lot of very fresh lime juice, and predictably it would go off almost immediately. And you know what? Compromises need to be made sometime. And honestly, the basic lime juice in the squeeze bottles in your grocery store will get you 75% of the way to an incredible cocktail every time, 1000%. If you'd like to upgrade to organic aisle lime juice, it's a little bit better, but the best is always, the truly the best is always going to be squeezed from a fresh citrus fruit. Sweetened lime juice is also fine, but it's like, think of it a little bit like a baker or a cook using salted versus unsalted butter. It's hard to control the sweetness of your final drink if you don't know the sweetness of the lime juice. So like, again, to each their own. I think there's a time and a place for sweetened lime juices for sure, 1000%. I don't tend to reach for them when I am shopping for myself or friends, but there's nothing wrong with using it. Absolutely not. I know for me, I'd have no way of knowing immediately how to add other sugars to it in order to make it work. But hey, sweetened lime juice is great because it cuts back on a step too. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but again, totally cool to use. Clear ice, really quickly before we hop into cocktail number 2. It is actually the easiest thing in the world to make. And I'm gonna walk away for 5 seconds to show you how to do it, because I love hearing my own voice talk about clear ice. It's my favorite thing. I can't help it. I swear I'm still here. I know we were all terribly worried about that. Where did I go? I'll tell you where I went. So if you have, going back to the Yeti conversation, if you had a Yeti mug, a double wall insulated mug of any kind, you could fill that with water, take the lid off, throw it into your freezer. That would work. What I use, we have like 7 of these in a chest freezer right now, a 5 liter, so like a gallon and a quarter Coleman cooler. They're on Amazon for like 15, 16 bucks. Rip the lid off entirely, fill it 3/4 of the way to the top with water. Put it in your freezer for 1 day. 1 day. You don't have to boil it. You don't have to distill it. If you want to yield clear ice, the only thing you need to do is something called directional freezing. So when you freeze in an insulated container, if it starts at room temperature and throw it in the freezer, it's only going to freeze from the top down. So when you have the force of water expands as it freezes, if it's expanding into itself, that's when crystals form, especially if the water is impure. So like, yes, if you use like distilled water, you will get even better clarity than what I do, but you get 99% of the way there with just simple directional freezing. So freeze a big block, get an ice knife. They're like 12 bucks on Amazon. Really show off for your friends. And yeah, long story short, that's how you make clear ice. Easiest thing in the world to do. And I swear it's the biggest upgrade you can make to your cocktails ever, because a block like this has been sitting here. I got back to the studio just under 2 hours ago, and I put this out an hour and a half ago, and it has not reduced in size very much. So if you like spirits on their own, like high-end whiskeys, and you don't like it to dilute too much, but you like a little bit of ice, clear ice will dilute much more slowly than ice that you just have in an ice cube drink. Anyways, thanks for listening to a TED Talk nobody asked for, but you got one. Ryan asked one more question. Can I substitute orange juice for lime juice? Sort of. So there's a really fun technique that is super popular in the world of cocktail making right now called acid adjustment. You can substitute, so orange juice can go in any cocktail for sure. It's not going to have the same acidity as lime juice. So the easiest way to kind of hack that, also available on Amazon, also available at every grocery store on the planet, buy a little bag of citric and or malic acid. There are tons of recipes on how to adjust orange juice to make it as sour as lime juice, but still taste like orange. You're probably, for a liter, you're probably going to add like 1 teaspoon of citric acid and maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of malic acid. Give it a good stir, and your orange juice all of a sudden is now acid adjusted orange juice, which is like really fancy. Like they're doing that in the highest end cocktail bars in the Lower East Side right now and stuff like that. Anyways, long story short, 5:57. We've got a busy day ahead of us. We got a second cocktail to make. And honestly, this one's pretty easy to make. So if you'd like to give your cocktail shaker a quick rinse, let's go on and do that. I will not. Enjoy your cocktail if you haven't yet already, or, sip responsibly, at a pace that you like. We don't have to drink both right this sec. Grab your favorite glass. Doesn't have to be a copper mug, although mules deserve a nice mug. I'm a big mug enthusiast around here. Big mug stand. I'm going to use a rocks glass because it's weird to make a cocktail on Zoom for people and not have them see what's in the glass. It seems wild to me. It doesn't make sense. So cocktail shaker out, tablespoon or shot glass out. We're going to jump back into the land of Tequila Town. We're going to go to the town of Jalisco. This time around, I'm going to use a Reposado tequila, but again, Blanco or Reposado would work really well. For those that don't know, Reposado tequilas are only different from a Blanco tequila. This is a Blanco. This is a Reposado. Blancos have 0 oak aging whatsoever. It's thrown into stainless steel tanks once it's done distilling. Reposados get aged in oak barrels for up to 90 days. So that's why they have like a pale straw looking color to them, usually. And that's where I stand on that. So yeah, I'm going to use a nice little Repo tequila, 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces. Oftentimes you'll find mule recipes. So this is the Burro de Observabilidad. Excuse me, my Spanish is worse than my French. Burro, donkey mule. We're going to go 1.5 ounces of our tequila. Most mule recipes will call for 2 ounces. I am a bit of a contrarian with mine, specifically because I think that fizzy cocktails tend to be better a little bit lighter. But again, this is totally up to you. What you prefer is the right thing to do. Much like with the first recipe, you can adjust how much lime or sweetness that you have, or how much tequila that you use, or whether or not you have salt, because we're not baking a cake here. Precision is it's important, but not entirely important. We don't have to be granular precise because our palates are all very different, and what we enjoy is very, very different from our peers. So yeah, 1.5 ounces of tequila, so that would have been 3 tablespoons. Back to lime juice. This time I'm going to drop down a little bit. Ginger beer tends to be a little bit bitter, a little bit sour as well, so I'm not going to add quite as much citrus. Also, this is an area where I differ from a lot of cocktail makers. In a traditional like Moscow or gin mule, you might get up to sometimes seriously up to 2 ounces of lime. I'm going just a 1/2 ounce, but you can adjust this to your liking as well. 1/2 ounce of lime juice. So 1 tablespoon for those of us keeping score. And this one's fun. I like this one a lot. It is not as opaque as a horchata, which is one of my favorite. Is it technically an agua fresca? But it's one of my favorite beverages to drink on a hot summer day. This is a horchata spice. It's like cinnamon, allspice, really, really simple. But it adds a nice fall flair to this cocktail. 1/2 ounce. Really warming. Almost fireplace ready if it's starting to get a little bit chilly where you are. It's 41 Fahrenheit here right now, which is sad. It was almost 80 a week ago, and now it's sad. Breaks my heart. Love summer. As I lament the death of summer, I pull out an ice pick. Wow. Should probably check the chat. People are wondering, am I okay? I am okay. And Brett, I'm really thankful you like the syrups. I hope you use them again. You should have enough to use some more. And we're going to go back into close-up camera because I need an accountability partner when I crush up some ice. Why? I don't know. It's just nice to know that there's somebody watching out for me on the internet while I stab at myself with an ice pick. Ah. There we go. Lots of ice in our shaker. Oh man, that's some nice framing there. Oh, that's really beautiful. Close our shaker of choice. And we like the roller coaster of life, we hop back on one more time. Give it a good shake. You'll note we haven't added ginger beer yet. There are some cocktail bars from the olden days that love shaking the Coca-Cola in a Long Island iced tea. They love shaking the soda in a mojito for some inexplicable reason. It kills the carbonation. It'll make the shaker pressure. If you don't have a threaded lid, it'll make it want to come off. And again, we're using expensive equipment. We don't want to wreck our tech. That would be gutting. So no, we don't want to kill the fizz, and we also don't want to wreck our clothing or our stuff. So 15 seconds of shaking without the carbonated ingredients will ensure we're safe and also yield still. Yeah, so we haven't strained anything today. You could strain this into a fancy champagne flute if you wanted to. What have I done? What happens when I put too big of an ice in my mason shaker? Jam jar. So we've added our beautiful ice, and now it's simply elementary here. All we need to do is add some ginger beer. He's walked off stage because even though we've done 1,638 of these workshops as of 90 minutes ago, shows up to the dance without a date. Came back to the dance with a date, an hour late. Opened up my soda of choice. We tilted him with board. And that with another lime wheel. Again, you can substitute tequila, gin, rum, Japanese whiskey in a mule. If you're feeling extra fancy. unbelievable. This is a really great coffee Japanese whiskey. Throw a lime in. And oh my goodness, 35 minutes after we began, you've learned 2 cocktails, and I hope you actually make them again. If you've never made a marg before, I hope you do this. They are 2 of my favorite cocktails on the planet, and I hope you love them. So to everybody who has put up with me, from Kirk to Tim to Emily to the entire team at Splunk, to everyone who's been a part of this with me, I just like to say thank you so much for being a part of this experience. It's always fun for me. It is insane that this is what I get to do for a living every single day. And it is a thrill that I will never not be grateful for. So cheers to absolutely everybody. Final questions. Any thoughts, concerns, hopes, dreams, aspirations from this experience? Are we looking for more sweetness or sourness or bitterness or savory or umami? Advice? And if not right now, you can hit me up at Happy Hour Academy whenever if you'd like cocktail advice. If it's regarding observability, probably not the person you want to talk to. I think Tim or Kirk might be better for that than an old chunk of coal like me. Where could one buy syrups like this? So we do ship syrups in Canada. We are launching in the US in a couple of stores next year, as well as online. So for us, my shameless plug does not yet exist. We tend to be much more B2B than anything, but we will be DTC a little bit more next year. I'm looking forward to that. However, if you want high-end cocktail syrups, there are a couple of companies in the US that I actually do trust. I really enjoy. I'm just gonna walk off stage for 5 seconds to see if I've got my smoke. Yes, I do. Okay, these guys are great. Absolutely great. I'm outing my competition. It's horrible, but again, they're not my competition. They're just a great company. Raft. These guys make great syrups. Let me just quickly zoom in, and then we'll go on our merry way. Raft, amazing company. They make the wildest, coolest syrups. Other thing you could do is you could just make your own. The easiest way to make a cocktail syrup with fruit infused into it, it'll take you a day, but it takes 5 minutes of effort. Take whatever fruit. If you've got fruit in your fridge that's going off, you don't think you're going to be using it by the weekend or whatever, but you don't know if it's going to survive another 2 days. Here's what you do. In Tupperware of any kind, you weigh. If you have a scale, it's great. If you don't, actually, I was going to say weigh it, but you don't really even have to do that. Put all your fruit in a Tupperware sealable container. Cover it in what you think is an equivalent amount of weight of sugar, or again, you could weigh the 2 ingredients. Make sure they're equal if you do weigh it. Cover the fruit and sugar, mix it together, seal it tightly, throw it into your fridge for at least a day. Better results after 4 days, but between 1 and 4 days. A process called maceration happens where the sugar extracts the fruit oils from the actual fruit and liquefies and turns into the most delicious, tastes like fresh fruit syrup on the planet. Grape is amazing. Peach is amazing. These syrups are amazing in cocktails, in violating the warranty of your soda stream if you like sodas, and even better on pancakes, French toast, stuff like that. So you can make the greatest fruit syrups on the planet and shoot my future DTC business in the foot by being as good at making it as I am, because that is the process that we use for about 70% of the syrups that we produce. So yeah, that was a really quick SparkNotes version of how to do it, but seriously, it is that easy. And yeah, so honestly, it's the greatest tip that I think I could ever give anyone who wants to take 2 steps up in their cocktail game. Step 1, clear ice. Friends will love it. Step 2, make a macerated syrup. It's delicious. And now, final thought on that, don't discard the fruit at the end, like the solid fruit once you've strained out the syrup. That is also, it's almost like a compote. Throw that on top of pancakes. Oh my goodness. I could go on for days, but I know we're on borrowed time. So if nobody has any other questions, should I pass it back to Tim and Kirk to say their fond farewells, or should I just say happy trails to everybody from being a part of this Taste of Observability with them?
We actually had you as the closer, so let's hear it.
Well, okay. Well, if there are tall ships, excuse me. Yeah, we'll say a little toast. There'll be tall ships, there'll be small ships, there'll be ships that set sea, but there's no ships like the friendships. Why the English accent out of nowhere between yous and me's? The cheers. It's like Carl Urban's from The Boys English accent, which is terrible. Good show, bad accent. Cheers, everybody. Splunk, I love being here. Everybody who's been a part of this, thank you so much. I've been Orlando. They've been Tim and Kirk. And together, we made 2 cocktails. So take
Thank
care.
you,
everybody.
Orlando. Thank you, everybody else, for joining. See you next time.
Cheers, everybody.